XboxEra is about to enter its 5th year, and that's all thanks to you. If you're new here, let me fill you in. XboxEra is a platform for the Xbox community with best-in-class forums, a kick-ass Discord server, and of course XboxEra.com, chock full of the latest news, reviews and more, all focused on your favourite platform, Xbox. It's every Xbox fan's gateway to the best of XboxEra. Our incredible podcasts listened to in over 50 countries across the planet, our own digital store for games and codes, our merch store for the coolest of Xbox threads, and of course Dayone, where you can track, rate and discuss your favourite games on Xbox Game Pass. XboxEra is built for you, and it's completely funded by you. If you value having a publication truly focused on your preferred place to play, you can support us directly via Patreon. Just head to patreon.com/XboxEra. You get cool swag and awesome perks, and we get to keep doing what we do. Become a part of the best Xbox community on the internet and help us build the next 5 years of Xbox Era. Thank you for your support. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Xbox Era Headlines. The date is June 25th, 2024. I'm Sik and Mechanico, and today Jesse and I will be taking you through all of the latest in gaming news from across the industry. Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, PC, you name it. As a bonus for our patrons, we'll make audio versions of these episodes available to them via Patreon for use in their preferred podcast app. But if you're on Spotify, you can link your account to Patreon and listen to it right there. If you want to become one of those Patreon legends, just head to patreon.com/XboxEra. Hi, Jesse. How are you?
Doing good. I'm going to hit this little button. And bam.
What's that button
Thank
do?
you, Jonathan Blackett, for pledging $3 to the Patreon earlier today.
Oh, yeah. I did see that.
I've got
a new legend is born.
I've got the Streamlab things right in OBS now, so I can just click things like when... Oh, God, scrolling through all the friggin' Jordan Andow stuff, my God. Like when this person named Britt became an executive producer for a year, pledging $540 via Patreon.
It is...
That one gets a double click.
We keep talking about it, but it is blowing our minds a little bit. Just the last couple of... last month, I would say, has just gone... Whoop. You know, if we were shareholders, we'd be like, number goes... And we'd be all like dancing and excited. No one would be getting fired.
It's pretty much, we were in the position where it was like, if we're going to keep doing this, it's either buckle down and just start focusing on SEO and make it a drag like every other video game website. Pretty much every other website is just full-on SEO focus. If you ever wonder, every single website this week, except for us, really, and maybe a few select others, have just been doing Elden Ring guides. It's all they're doing.
And Dr. Disrespect's news. And that's it.
So you get the mix of clickbait and drama, but then the main focus for most websites end up being guide work. And the only ones that don't have to focus on guide work, because that's like the only sustainable long-term income for ads, are people who get crowdfunded, like us. Which means we get to do the fun stuff that you actually enjoy watching. So it is greatly appreciated. Because it's also way more fun to actually do. Because guide work is soul-crushing.
It is really boring. I did everything you need to know about Perfect Dark. And whilst the article itself is fine, it doesn't exactly spark the creative juices, does it?
I did three little ones for Elden Ring yesterday. Just what's this, and... what are all of these? And it was only 30 minutes, and it was the most boring 30 minutes of the last month. Like, I've been doing tons of streams lately. I've been going really good. I'll be playing Fallout 76 later at noon. Thinking of getting back into Gears, because I had been doing a full Gears playthrough. A lot of
Gears love out there.
I was doing a full Gears playthrough. We had Happy New Gears was the last time I played it, when I played on New Year's Eve. And I gave everyone little hats, and we finished Gears 2 and started up 3. So I'll probably go back to 3 sometime soon.
Nice. My favorite, I think, in hindsight, was always Gears 2, because you can't beat whoever wrote the line, "They're sinking cities with a giant worm." I mean, I was sold. I was literally cracking up while I was playing it. I was just like, this is so dumb.
It's very funny. Friggin' Michael B. Jordan voices Jace. And I always look at that character like, man, this character just is But then it's like, oh shit, it is Michael B. Jordan, a very good actor doing it. It was just not the most engaging character. It was one of those character thrown in brand new at like the end of a trilogy, and you're kind of like, I don't even know who this is. And, but he's fine. Not in anything else. They kind of wrote him out, because I imagine getting Michael B. Jordan back would be very expensive.
Very pricey.
Originally going to be voiced by Drake, supposedly, but scheduling conflicts.
Bummer. Anywho's, let's dive into things. Shall we?
Yeah, sure.
To kick things off, we'll start off with the headline title. Matt Booty did an interview with Variety's Strictly Business podcast. Now, admittedly, we did dive into this in great detail in the mainline show at the weekend because the news kind of came out. I think the podcast came out on Thursday or Friday last week.
Yeah, so this Tuesday ends up having a lot of the Friday or late Thursday news, but without Nick. So that's why people like
it. Which means,
yeah,
which means perhaps more nuanced and reasonable takes without the frothing drama.
Meaning you and I get to talk. Like generally, it's
Nick,
one of us.
He's not even here to defend himself.
It's generally one of us talking to Nick, rarely to each other on the podcast.
I can't deny.
By the way, no
statement.
Nick this weekend, so we do need to find a third.
I know, right? Who should we have on?
I mean, I am always partial to Ursula or Kay Asante. Personally, I admit it.
Yeah, I mean, there's several members in the Patreon team that absolutely want Soul Blazers all the time. All the time, you know?
Know what I mean?
And that hurts, man. That hurts me inside. You'd willingly allow, you know, this Canadian chap on. But it's fine.
That almost sounded like an insult. Canadian.
I mean, almost, right?
Yeah.
Almost, but not quite. It's the British way. But yeah, we'll see if we can get one of the guys on. I also obviously have a very soft spot for Kay because he is an absolute gentleman. Not to say that Soul Blazers isn't, of course. But yeah, we'll find someone to come and join the crew.
Very first person in all of the internet-averse that we're a part of that I've ever met in person. He was very nice. But he drives a Tesla, which is like a death trap. Another super chat from Mohammed Shrez.
Yeah. Before we get into things, let's take care of those. First one he drops just while we weren't even live yet. Executive producer Mohammed Shrez says, "Hello, part-timer John and Jesse. I have nothing to say. Have a great stream." But he turns out he does have something to say because he says, "Ursel, please." So I guess that's who the man wants, and who are we not to listen to our executive producers? But anyway, onto the subject of Matt Booty in this podcast. I mean, there's tons to cover, and we did go into it in great detail, so I won't read out all of his statements, etc. But we did a couple of articles on it, which I'm sure we can probably throw the links in the chat. But the nutshell is, when he was talking about studio closures, obviously everyone's very cross at Microsoft and Xbox in general with regards to Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin. He talked a little bit about the business realities of game development and how they kind of break down the games into three different characters. And this made Jesse want to vomit. There's a short out there on the YouTube channel when I said the phrase predictable revenue generators. Jesse just nearly threw up. He was so grossed out.
Disgusting.
It was so funny. But they call them predictable revenue generators: Sea of Thieves, Forza Horizon, Elder Scrolls, blockbuster time. I called that one. They called it unique games, but I think artsy fartsy sounds better. Like Pentiment and Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. And he kind of talked a little bit about how they made these decisions. They talked about how difficult it was, making sure they supported people, but he wouldn't really go into the detail of exactly why certain studios were closed out of respect. And then he said, and this is the phrase that kind of just made everyone go, "Oh, please don't do these interviews again." This is the full quote. "It's as much a forward-looking situation as it is one looking back at one certain game. There are lots of things that go into success for a game. What leadership do you have? What creative leadership do you have? Is that team the same team that shipped something successful previously? And we have to look at all those things together and ask ourselves, are we set up for success going forward?" How would you pick apart that corporation type speak, Jesse? How would you break that down into what he actually means? What would be your take?
It feels like when you listen to Matt Booty talk, or even Sarah Bond, you get corporate training, public speak, where it's very obvious. It still works on people, especially Nick. I wonder why. It still works on certain people, and they're like, "Wow, I can't believe they said this." And it's like, well, they didn't actually say anything. So that line could be taken, well, too many people left, so we shut them down. Like, you could very easily take it that way, and it might be meant that way nicely. Like, and everyone's just like, well, Mikami left. And it's like, well, no, there were multiple game leads and other people who left over time. And he talked about how in certain situations, like with Toys for Bob, they were able to let them go independent. And he said they looked at all those options. This ended up being the only one. We'll never know what those were. We'll never know exactly why anything was shut down. The way you read into this is, oh, it sounds like they lost too many people. If you're mad, you'll just say, oh, they should have known Mikami wanted to leave. And it's like, maybe they didn't. Maybe they are dummies. Maybe it wasn't just him. Maybe it was other people. You can't assume, you can't know. It's just slimy corporate talk that doesn't ever commit to anything. And I always feel like I'm bashing that into people's heads. Like, there's no incentive for him to be honest. There never will be. And legally, because all the legal repercussions you get, especially when it comes into firing people and shutting stuff down, like, there's no benefit in talking about it. It can only get you and your company in trouble. So,
yeah. There's some interesting comments in the chat here. Noob Cybot JP45. Sorry if I massacred that one. Says he meant the leadership team didn't have enough experience anymore to move forward. I mean, that could be the case as well. Like, that's the relevant thing here is he's been asked to provide a public comment. He said what he can say within the constraints of what legality and what the business and what PR teams will let him say. I mean, I would love a world where, the XboxEra podcast could get Phil on or get Matt on or get Sarah Bond on and just be like, hey, can we cut the shit? Can we just talk like human beings? But unfortunately, that world doesn't exist.
It only exists if you are literally one of their like real life
compadres,
Phil and Tim Dog style friends, where you can just hang out and you talk, and then it gets weird. But it's a. I mean, it just isn't like they are corporate executives. They might be wonderful people in their day-to-day lives, but when it comes to being an executive at work, you don't get to be nice. Like, it's not allowed. This system doesn't let you. So it takes a certain type of person to be able to. I could never fire someone. We've done it one time, and how hard was it, and how long did it take until it was literally the only option we had to tell someone, no, you've got to go, and it was hard.
It's horrible, and speaking candidly without really talking about the conversations had, speaking to those types of executives off the record is a lot more human, is a lot more down to earth and frank and all of that jazz. But they can't talk like that necessarily on. But either way, I don't think you're going to hear much more on this from the industry at large. It's a horse that's been beaten many times. Those studios are closed, and that is that.
Yeah.
Will more studios get closed in the future?
Yes,
probably. It's business, and it is what it is. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. And as
it's
a
not something
consumer
we should ever be okay with from our side.
I'm not happy.
Yeah, like, I do think that's always the thing people take. It's like they're used to anger and like occasionally performative outrage over it, instead of you and I both really liked or loved games that those studios made and don't want to see any of them fired or them gone. Like, we played Redfall. We really enjoyed it. I loved Prey.
Redfall, since the latest patch, is genuinely a fun game. Like, it's fun. It's not like a revolutionary genre-defining game, but it's a fun game. End of story.
We'll have Hi-Fi Rush. I really enjoyed Ghostwire Tokyo. Evil Within, I was a little more iffy on. 1 was very weird. 2... But it's like people just look at it like, oh, if you're explaining it, then you're okay with it. And it's like, no, I know that I hate it. Those were two of my favorite studios.
I'm in my feels, and if you make any sentence that kind of links it to being more common sense approach, it means you're defending. And it's like, try and elevate yourself above that discussion.
Well, we get that a lot because we will try and explain the why to Nick, and we know he knows, but he still gets in that Resetera, look how angry I am mindset sometimes. And people can go like, oh, you don't think Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is worth porting. It's like, no, I would freaking love to have it on there. I really enjoyed that game. I'm just saying why it probably hasn't happened based on what Windows Central and others have talked about. Not that I don't want it. I want everything to be everywhere. That's just the best thing for us when we own systems, is to have more choice on them. But yeah,
it's one of those things. Last thing to call out here, YouTube member Jesse P. They bought ZeniMax for BGS, id, and ZeniMax Online, not specifically Tango. Tango wasn't profitable enough, and we require more investment to get them going again. It's just the reality of running business. This was one additional point I made on Saturday, is that if we lived in a timeline where Microsoft did not make the Bethesda acquisition at all, so ZeniMax was not purchased, look at what ZeniMax was doing as a business before they were acquired. They were pivoting to try and rescue and make money with their studios, because their single player critically acclaimed games like Prey, like Dishonored, were not making enough money to keep all of the studios alive. So they had Wolfenstein Youngblood and Fallout 76 and so on.
Yeah, it was
and Redfall.
The big push.
Redfall was a live service game before it was changed from that by Microsoft, because we don't need it to be live service. It sucks, but if we lived in that timeline, I fully expect Bethesda to have made similar decisions. Now, that's not an excuse. I'm just, again, giving you a
in the existing timeline, it would have been way worse, because they were not doing... Doom Eternal would have helped a lot, but as far as like, what are our costs in other places? Yeah, no, it would have been bad.
Would have been bad.
Microsoft's not good, but they are big enough so that they are able to absorb infinitely more than almost any other company on the planet, if not any other company on the planet.
There you go. Not much more to say on that. If you want to get really into the nitty gritty and obviously hear Nick's take on it, have a listen to the recently released episode 217 of the XboxEra podcast. It's available on video on demand on both Spotify and YouTube, and on audio formats in all other podcast platforms. Quick super chat before we dive into the next topic from CJ Ad 93. Johnny, you excited for season 3 of The Bear? Fuck yeah, I am. Sorry, I have to get that off my chest. It's out this Friday, and it's all of them binge heaven. One of the best TV shows I've ever seen in my life. And
Paris Lily will be very upset. He hates binging.
Well, Paris is wrong on this occasion. Binging rules. Sod having them once a week. I can't imagine how nervous I would feel every week. The fact that I get to just plow through them. So I've got no kids this weekend. Me and the missus are going to spend our evening on either Friday or Saturday before the show watching The Bear. And I can't wait. It's going to be great. So yeah, very excited. Thank you, CJ. Yes, chef. Word. Word, chef. Or heard chef, I should say. Anyways, next up in the news, according to XboxEra.com, byline by Jesse Norris, Diablo 4 was the biggest Game Pass launch ever. This was another little extract from that interview with Matt Booty, where he confirmed that following the addition of Diablo 4 into Game Pass in March, it was the biggest first-party launch into the service ever. Purely based on number of hours played, there were 10 million hours played by Game Pass subscribers in the first 10 days. It's not completely clear, right, that because they said Starfield was the biggest launch until this one, right?
It's probably different metrics. So it's again one of those things where like this was the biggest launch ever, and then but based on hours, and then this was the biggest launch ever based on new users or stuff like that. So
yeah.
Who knows? It's a lot of it is pseudo marketing talk as well. Like you've got your talking points to try and pump up your business and make people happy, generally your shareholders. But there's also a nice side of positive press you can get out of it, knowing, in general, not always seemingly knowing that you're going to get headlines out of it from click-thirsty news sites like us. So,
lol. But staying on the subject of Diablo 4, Diablo 4's Season 5 update, and for reference, this is an amusing anecdote. Sometimes Roman numerals confuse me, and I published this story earlier today because Season 5 is getting a public test realm with a bunch of new updates, including a new wave-based survival mode. And somehow my brain got confused and I was writing Diablo 6 with Roman numerals, so I had to quickly edit it. And
You're such a
sort the
huge
tweet
Elder
out.
Scrolls fan. You just cannot wait for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just in a 6 kind of mode. It's because it sounds like my name, 6.
Your
But
name's
yes,
John.
not for Diablo 6. That's going to be a while. Sorry, got to do Diablo 5 first. But for Diablo 4, they had a campfire chat. And an associated blog post which detailed out some of the new additions to their public test realm, and there are things in there like new weapons, a new quest line, all sorts of other quality of life updates and endgame bosses to battle. But the biggest piece of news out of that was the Infernal Hordes mode, which is a new wave-based mode tasking players with confronting endless waves of Hell's legions in the realm of hatred, and they grow more powerful with each passing day. I mean, you're a big Diablo 6 fan. Are you looking forward to this? Does this sound like right up your alley?
It does, but I won't have any time to play it, which always makes me very sad. I would
Live
love
service
to.
games,
I would
baby.
love to be able to do it, but just never have the time anymore.
Yeah,
that's why I keep streaming Fallout 76, because it's like I want to play this game, and this is pretty much the only way I can.
Yeah, I totally get it. But if you're really looking forward to this, and keep me honest here, this is just an update. This isn't part of Vessel of Hatred, which is coming.
No, it seems like they're making more hatred things to get you in the mood for Vessel of Hatred in October.
I hate everything.
Yeah, because that doesn't come till October, which hopefully won't get on the list for.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Next up in the news, Xbox confirms their Gamescom 2024 attendance. And good news, ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation ain't going, Nintendo ain't going, but thanks to you guys, it looks likely that we all are. So in case you missed it, we have for the last couple of months been running a Gamescom kind of fundraiser to help get the team out there and meeting IRL for the very first time. So that's me, that's Jesse, Nick, Soul Blazers, and Pre-Drag from the XboxEra team, all in one location, all meeting each other, bringing the latest games coverage to you guys. We're super hype about it, right? And we've said it a lot. We've said it last episode. We said it last headlines. The amount of effort and generosity we've seen from the XboxEra community to enabling it to happen is humbling is one word I would use. Mind-blowing is another. Like it puts the biggest smile on our faces, because we didn't go crazy. We were like, okay, how much does it cost to get us out there? That's what we need to raise. There's no extras in there for like food or taxis or Ubers. We'll sort that out ourselves.
You know who's 3 or 4 inches taller than Nick, has a flight almost as long, and hasn't once asked to upgrade his seat?
You.
Because what his flight
Nick
was like
can just
20 something,
chicken legs,
and I was like 18. Like, yeah, it's.
But big thank you to everybody in the community for sending us, and we're really, really glad that we're going this year, because it looks like Microsoft are going to have quite the booth. They're claiming it's their biggest booth ever. Last year's booth was pretty big already, and this year, right now, there's more announcements to come. But right now, we can expect Age of Mythology Retold, Avowed, Ara History Untold, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Diablo Immortal, Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, Towerborn, and World of Warcraft: The War Within. That's just for starters. Like, obviously, big hope from my point of view that Indiana Jones will be there and we can get some.
It'll be the only time you get to play it before I review it.
Bring it on. But yes, we are tremendously grateful to this community for helping get us out there. We're over halfway to our target. We did a subathon just after Summer Games Fest. We're going to do another one later on in July before we head out in August. And that's not all you get to look forward to with the Gamescom, because we'll be having our first ever in-person live show podcast on the Saturday, August 17th, with me, Jesse, and Nick, all in the same room, within punching distance of each other. It's going to be great. And we've got some really, really cool, I would say, pretty huge announcements to make on that show that are going to maybe blow some people's minds and maybe, really make us happy. So we'll see. There's lots to look forward to. I'm very pleased. But as I said, PlayStation and Nintendo, no shows for Gamescom.
Yeah, answering a question in chat from RSJ Fan05. Will there be some kind of Xbox showcase there or no? I imagine if it's anything like last year, they'll do live streams from their booth.
Yeah, live streams from their booth, and I fully expect Microsoft to chuck Jeff Keighley a few things for opening night live. Like that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. They show up at
I
that
don't
one
think...
more than Summer Games Fest because they have their own show right after Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, exactly. So I fully expect that, and they've got plenty. There's been scuttlebutt around things that were pulled from the showcase. None of this is confirmed, and we don't like to perpetuate inaccurate reporting at XboxEra. So, but there was scuttlebutt that is there things that are going to be ready that weren't in the main show in the summer, from Double Fine, from In Exile, etc., etc. We don't know, but we can hope. Maybe we'll see some more cool stuff from Microsoft on opening night live. I don't think, Jesse, that we're going to actually be in the audience for opening night live because, and this is just my personal opinion, I have absolutely zero desire to sit in an audience and be locked in, unable to vape for 2 hours to watch advertising and music performances and more.
I mean,
I'd much rather
I
cover
don't give
that from a hotel room and write about it there.
I'm going to avoid big crowds where I can because, unlike the rest of you, I'm going to try to avoid getting COVID because it's really bad. I don't want it, and I'm going to always have a mask on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Everyone tries to shake my hand, I'm just going to punch them.
Fair. But yes, so Gamescom looking very, very cool indeed. In other news, the Xbox Series S version of Starfield has got some new performance modes.
Not really.
To mods.
Yeah.
We say they're new performance modes. They cut back the existing visual quality a lot to get there, and it doesn't look great.
Yeah, Digital Foundry talked about it on their podcast, and it runs a lot faster. You do lose. I mean, for a 4-year-old $300 box, it still looks fine. But just knowing how good Starfield and its lighting can look, and how good its texture work and its world and all that stuff can be, it is a tough sell, especially because it is still really varying between like 40 and 80 and upwards, depending on how small the area you are is in. The area you are in, not is in. But yeah, it's neat to see. It was always the thing people were waiting for with mods is how can we try and adjust this to run better on console? And then they ended up just making it actually have its own multiple performance modes. Anyways, built right into it, but not for Series S. So it is really cool to see it because despite what everyone else wants you to think, I still found Starfield to be a fantastic game at launch. That's only gotten better. So
yeah. There's been some controversy with their new mod store, particularly around the.
It's not new controversy. It's the same one that they had a decade ago.
I know, with regards to paid mods, but I think this was specifically. I saw some interesting write-ups on their $7.
It was a
you have to pay $10.
It's a 7. So what it is, and Todd Howard already talked about it directly. No, it's already been talked about. Like what it is it was a quest. It was a mod to give you some cool, like an armor mod. Buy armor, and they're like, oh, instead of just buying the armor, we'll make a little quest to go get the armor.
Yeah,
and people were like, the hell, this quest is super short. And like, well, it was an armor mod, but I guess we didn't make that clear enough.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, and yeah, the prices suck, but they always suck because people keep like Nick will buy them in tons of different games, and it drives me crazy.
Blame the whales. Blame the whales.
Yeah, I hate whales.
I think the last thing Digital Foundry said on the whole performance side of the Series S is there is an argument to be made that it could support an official 120 FPS, 40 FPS VRR mode for the Series S console, but whether Bethesda choose to go through with that, that's up to them. If you want to play it at 60 or 120 or 240, buy PC.
I mean, 240 is going to be a really good, like, really low settings DLSS frame gen or AMD frame gen on.
Yeah, all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. Frame gen's cool, but it does add input latency, which can be rough in a first-person shooter.
Yeah, I agree. Next up in the news, Microsoft Flight Simulator celebrates a new milestone. This is via myself on XboxEra.com. It's a very well supported game, as evidenced by the myriad of updates it's had since it released in 2020. And Asobo and Microsoft Flight Simulator shared an update to say that they're thrilled to celebrate 15 million pilots that have taken flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Thanks to each and every one of you for filling the skies with your adventures, blue skies and tailwinds. That's a pretty good metric to reach for a simulator game.
Yeah, and they had a whole thing where they gave a whole breakdown of financials, who plays what, who spends what. It's biggest on the Windows Store on PC, then second is Xbox, and then third is Steam for players. But it's almost even in making money between Steam and Windows. PC players just paying more for their mods. The marketplace is really big. It's the type of thing where it's like with Flight Sim 2024. I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up everywhere because it is a really big money maker. It's not a console seller though. Like I just don't think that is the type of game a ton of people who are going to build a cockpit. They're going to build a cockpit for their PC.
That's my dad.
Yeah,
this is my dad with Elite. Is he had the head tracking and the Oculus and
which is
mounted
PC.
things on his chair
because it is really neat to get in there. Like, have you ever done you've got a Quest 3? Jump in and do some VR flight sim where you're like actually in and looking around. It's very taxing on your computer, but boy, is it neat.
Yeah, but it was an accomplished game. I think on PC I gave it a 9.5 in terms of what it set out to achieve. I think on console you gave it a 9.4. Obviously the performance is a little bit different there, but yes. Flight Sim 2024 is coming November 19th on Xbox Series X and S on Game Pass.
You get to review
Steam,
that one again.
Windows
It'll
PC.
probably be right around Indiana Jones, so you won't be able to do that one. Sorry.
If I had to choose between the two, bro.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's coming out right around probably like Avowed and a bunch of other stuff, so we are going to have to find someone. Maybe Nick will do it.
Maybe there's a big Flight Sim fan in the community that wants to review it. Like,
only if they can also do their own audio and video, and they're very good at it. And
I don't mind doing their audio and video. It's fine. I can pump that out. But
you can pump that up, but you can't play 50 hours of the game.
Yeah, amateur.
I do think people don't realize like doing like the review I did yesterday for Elden Ring. I think I wrote, narrated it, and edited it in like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours at the most, maybe 2.
Something like that. It was pretty swift.
It's about an hour to 2 hours now because we've done so many of them. It's just write it, edit it again while narrating it, edit it again after that, just go through and double check and make sure. Still miss stuff, and then just throw the video together. The hard part is all the playing, which I think was like 30 hours in a weekend, so...
That's nuts that you managed that though. You are a machine. Fun. Like, so I chatted with some folks while we were in LA, and people were like, "How does Jesse play that?" And I'm just like,
"I sit here,
drugs,
comfortable chair."
Oh, okay.
The luckiest thing we ever
looking for.
The luckiest thing, and I don't get yelled at like Paris because I'm not black. But I got this chair for free. What? I mean, it's a mostly racist.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong. Yeah.
So this chair's $1,700. I could never afford it, but I sent a message to Hayworth's support chat. And it was like, "Hey, I see you got a Halo chair coming. We like Halo. Can I cover it?" And they just sent me one. And they've sent my wife 2 of the Xbox ones because the first one had a broken seat. Never got a complaint once from anyone, but the secret is I'm never uncomfortable in this thing. It's not telling everyone go spend $1,700 on a chair. Just know that sometimes when these chairs are super expensive, they're also worth it because I don't have any back problems.
Sit there for hours without.
My ass never hurts. My back never hurts. Like, John is in his chair, Townie saying he never wrote about it.
Yeah, I never heard back from them. I was like, "Hey, can I have some marketing materials? Can I have anything?" Like,
it happens sometimes.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
But yes, anyone wondering, this is the Hayworth Fern Halo Edition, which I think is still on sale, but they also have an Xbox edition. It's just like black with the Xbox logo. They're the 2 chairs they have are the 2 best chairs I've ever sat in. Being over $1,000 each, they really should be. But
they should be for that money. Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like these headphones are $900 headphones, and I'm like, shit, they're actually worth it. But I would still have never bought them because I don't have the money. And I got to write these ones up.
I've always wanted a pair of fancy headphones, but again, anytime it comes to like buy something like that, I'm like, I can always find something else that's more important to spend that money on.
I asked
Lucky
Odyssey
you.
about sending stuff to the UK. They don't really. I'm sorry.
Feel free to bring them with you.
Oh no, these are my Xbox headphones, and these are my PC headphones. These are the Odyssey Maxwells. They're the best wireless Xbox headset that I've ever used. I've used like 5, so I'm not. I don't know that much about them. Ask Jez; he knows more about headphones.
Next up in news, Beyond Good and Evil got delisted last week. Lots of people surmised that it was because there's a 20th anniversary edition launching. It is launching. Congratulations to
when?
Ubisoft for pushing that one out. It's coming out today. 20th anniversary edition of Beyond Good and Evil, and it includes a new mission that connects Beyond Good and Evil Anniversary Edition to the reconfirmed Beyond Good and Evil 2, which Ubisoft have taken the time out to confirm. We are still making this game. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they announced this game in 2008.
That is insane. Absolutely. Talk about vaporware at this point.
The main thing was like the main guy behind it ended up leaving amid potential allegations and stuff. And yeah, it's just, it seemed to be the one most impacted by a lot of their, Ubisoft's got a lot of shitheads in it. Allegations, allegedly, supposedly. I have not played this game since trying it out years ago. I was very interested actually in looking at it for a review, but they announced it, and I completely forgot to email them, but I doubt it was going to be available early.
Yeah, maybe we can get a code off them, but I remember playing Beyond Good and Evil. I don't remember much about it. I remember you take photos of animals like a lot in it as one of the game mechanics, and I was just like, what is this? Probably not a for me game. Maybe I need to give it another look, but I was young and stupid, and now I'm just stupid.
And most people probably own Beyond Good and Evil already because it was Games with Gold originally a long time ago. So even though it's delisted, you might still have it. Yeah,
I definitely do. I definitely still own it somewhere. But yeah, there you go. For Beyond Good and Evil fans, Ubisoft doubled down. It's still coming.
Ubisoft rarely gives up. To their credit,
they always stick to things. Yeah, even live service games.
How big is For Honor? Who has thought of For Honor? I mean, I have. I actually really liked For Honor. Have you thought of For Honor?
It was quite popular at the time. No, but it's still really popular.
Yeah. It's a huge game. They just stuck with it. It has a bajillion updates. Like, that's what they do.
I mean, they'll probably stick with Skull and Bones as well. Although I think that one has seen a serious drop off. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. That one went through some serious dev hell. Anyways, next up in the news, this is from gamesindustry.biz. European charts for May are rough. In fact, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom outsold 2024's top 10 combined last year. Is that right? Like, that's insane to me.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's 2023 was more than all of the top 10 combined in Europe.
Wow.
Oh, I can't. Damn it! It's right there. I could have requested a review for this. All right, let me.
Click.
They do it through their press site, so I always forget. I got to go in there.
While you're doing that, this is from Chris Dring, head of Games B2B at gamesindustry.biz, now owned by IGN. 11.6 million PC and console games were sold across European markets in May, compared with the same 5-week period in 2023. It's a drop of nearly 17%. This is GSD figures, which tracks all digital game sales from most major publishers, excluding Nintendo, and physical game sales in all major European markets. The number one selling game in May this year was EA Sports FC 24, followed by Grand Theft Auto 5. F1 2024 races in at number 3, which launches a good 2 weeks earlier this year. However, the Codemasters game got off to a slow start, with launch sales down around 35% over last year's game. The PC release of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut sends the PlayStation game up to number 4. We've got Paper Mario Thousand Year Door at number 5, but Nintendo doesn't share digital sales, so it might have actually charted higher up in real terms. But yeah, Hellblade 2 didn't even make the top 100.
No.
For May.
Well, it came out near the end, right? So it had a week of sales, so who knows?
Yeah.
But also it is that thing where as long as they properly scope and budget,
It should be fine.
Yeah, like the Evil Within 2 and Ghostwire Tokyo were very expensive games versus what they made, and that's what it ends up coming down to. Like, how much do you spend? How much do you make? That's kind of like Metroid Prime 4 is going to be probably one of Nintendo's biggest budget games ever, not because they wanted to pump a lot into it, but because it's just taken so long, and so you're spending money on it for 8 years now. Like, it's just the way it goes. So if you can, if you can keep it down. That's like the biggest thing. It's one of the bigger things in movies. It's like, can you have a cheap $80 million budget movie like the Gareth Evans one? I can't remember. The Creator?
Yeah.
Like
that was
it didn't have to make $1 bajillion because it didn't cost $1 bajillion. So,
and as the wonderful Mort points out in the YouTube chat, Game Pass. Like if I were Microsoft, I've made a deliberately short, succinct, tight experience that's 6 to 8 hours to complete, and it's for my Game Pass subscription base.
Yeah, and Matt Booty even talked about that. He said our little auteur, he didn't say auteur, but our unique titles like Hellblade 2 and Pentiment aren't meant to be huge sellers, but then Pentiment ended up actually selling better than Hi-Fi Rush on Steam. Like those types of things. Like sometimes things just take off because Pentiment is also incredible. I forget. That is a game I wish I could experience one time. Again, like for the first time. Yeah, if you have not played it, John.
Play it again. I tried it. It's
not that long. And
I know, it's just if it doesn't grab me, and it didn't.
Have you ever seen In the Name of the Rose?
It rings a bell.
Sean Connery and Keanu Reeves as monks, I think, in Europe. It's heavily influenced by that, but it is... Some of the revelations of the story and your choices in Pentiment are some of my favorite ever. Like, just so good. And randomly DMing Josh Sawyer saying, hey, I'm about to do my review, and I would really appreciate if I could get some of the music from the game, because it's very hard. You only get it one time, and it doesn't loop, so it's really hard to capture without having any sound effects over it. He's like, sure. And then they sent me like 10 things. And I was like, oh, wow, that was nice of you. Thank you.
Very kind of Obsidian. Thanks, Josh Sawyer. But yes, in terms of hardware across the track markets, 311,000 game consoles were sold in May across Europe, which is a drop of 40% over the same year before. All the console platforms saw a big drop, with Nintendo Switch suffering the biggest fall. This is because last May saw the release of Zelda and a special Zelda edition of the OLED Switch model.
They have another Zelda Switch model coming this year, but it's the freaking Lite. No one should get the Lite unless you get a lot of money and you don't really like your kids that much.
Yeah.
Yep.
That sounds like Nick. Next up, and this is a really interesting one. Game Awards last year, Sega surprised and delighted all of us with some announcements for 5 games of classic franchises from them, new games in Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and Crazy Taxi. Ooh, everyone said, yay, this is a great idea, Sega. Well done. But now, some screenshots and some footage have leaked of what appears to be a remake of the original Dreamcast Jet Set Radio. So not Jet Set Radio Future. And they were leaked on Twitter by a user called MSKazY69, and he or she publicly said, my source is Midori, which was a recently closed up shop, closed all his social media accounts, Sega leaker.
He was a web scraper essentially, and then he got caught. He pretended to be a Japanese woman, was a white guy.
Oh, is that the same one?
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Wow. But there you go. So there's 4 screenshots there of a reportedly, allegedly,
I won't show him.
in production remake of the original Jet Set Radio.
Huge thunderstorm.
And oh dear, I heard that. I thought something had fallen over in your house. And there's even some developer footage up on YouTube, which you can find in the article on XboxEra.com, which I'll link in the chat. If you're a big Jet Set Radio fan, this is exciting news because the original game is a cult classic. But but this is odd as well, because okay, if you're going to make a new one, is the new one a remake or is it a new one? Like, what's the deal here? We don't know.
Yeah.
Are they doing both? We just don't know. But exciting times for Jet Set Radio fans. And what's next? I'm gonna flip some things around. I'm gonna do that one last. Yep, I'm an absolute jerk. SEGA have confirmed Metaphor ReFantasio from Atlas will be playable on the show floor at Gamescom Latin America. So we haven't got any confirmation of it being on the show floor at Gamescom Cologne. We assume that will probably be the case. I would say it's safe to be assured of that. I think it's a good bet. But if you're going to Gamescom LATAM, which I think starts today or tomorrow, you'll be able to play it on the show floor in the venue. I think they have 6 booths available in the Gamescom LATAM Panorama Mundo area and 2 demo stations at the booth of the digital store Nuvem. So if you're in that neck of the woods and you really, really love Atlas games, go check it out.
This is definitely a John game. We got to force you to play this one.
This is definitely not a John game. This is a Chinggis game, or
he's all over.
This is a
he's over
game.
it as much as you can do.
Over
Yeah, no. I mean, Atlas makes Atlas, so it's very much there. Tons of menus, tons of worrying about calendars and dates. Probably not trying to date as much in this one. It doesn't seem like, but yeah, very much an Atlas game.
Very much so. So that's lovely to hear. A quick comment on this before we finish off with a nice feel-good story of the day. One of the biggest news stories in gaming, and we say gaming in air quotes, is the reported illegible, we don't want to get sued by anyone for talking about it in the wrong context, downfall of Dr. Disrespect. So I'm going to try and paraphrase this as best as possible for those that don't care and haven't watched the news. Dr. Disrespect was a really big Twitch streamer. He then got in trouble for reportedly streaming live from a show floor in a.
It wasn't reportedly. I mean, he did live stream from a bathroom.
Yeah. Okay. And then got in trouble over that, came back, and then suddenly his channel was off Twitch, shut down, and neither party would talk about why. Fast forward, that was back in 2020. He went on to make deals with YouTube and eventually get some sponsorships over there. Fast forward to last week, and an ex-Twitch employee, without naming Dr. Disrespect specifically, alleged that the big Twitch streamer that got banned and everyone wanted to know the reason was caught out for allegedly sexting a minor. Since that point, Dr. Disrespect, whose real name is Guy Beam, has been kicked out of the studio he helped found, Midnight Society, which is a NFT game studio.
It was the height of talking about NFTs and trying to use them to get corporate funding. I highly doubt they're doing it. No one's doing anything with NFTs anymore.
Yeah. And all that's really come out is a statement from Dr. Disrespect, which, again, paraphrasing, was something along the lines of no wrongdoing was found.
No wrongdoing was
and settled.
No wrongdoing was admitted to, or something like that.
And then I got paid. The end.
Mm-hmm.
Twitch haven't said anything. I guarantee you, video game journalists, especially people like real journalists like Jason Schreier and the like, are going to be chomping at the bit to get to the details of this particular story. But the scuttlebutt is that someone's NDA ran out at Twitch after 4 years, and that meant that they could say it. But we don't know much more beyond that. But it's certainly not looking great for Dr. Disrespect.
The latest things were he's seemingly been scrubbed from Turtle Beach, who sponsored him from their website. So
yeah. So and he ended his last stream with, "I'm going to take a break and maybe even take a break from Midnight Society, and maybe even I'll just bail completely from the social media circle." And then the stuff about him being kicked from his own studio has been kind of found out at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't think NDAs generally run out after a set amount of time like that hard.
Who knows?
Normally a lot longer.
But as per usual, some of the biggest streamers in the world, and then suddenly, turns out they might not be nice people,
Potentially.
allegedly. But yeah, just a quick note on that. Can't not talk about it. It's all over the place. So if you're wondering what all that was, there you go. That's the general
The funny
gist
thing with
of
the
that
guy who
conversation.
said it is like also part of him trying to pump up people coming to see his band. So
I mean, this is all just.
I
so
know it's a
horrible.
really dumb. It's a really
so
dumb
horrible.
side of the internet. Like it's so many people that are not professional in any way, and they learn on the fly, and some of them really get it. Like you look at like a Shroud or someone, and they seem like a decently savvy enough business person, and then others are just, you can tell they have no idea what they're doing, and they've just kind of lucked into this situation, and it can be painful.
Yes, but there you go. And then the last one, and I wanted to end on this because it's a nice, genuinely
We barely
good
ever end on
feel-good
nice
story.
stuff.
Exactly. Normally it's like, this studio got closed, these people got fired. Well, not this time, baby. It has a sad note to it, but I think overall it's a positive story. The developers of State of Decay 1 and 2 and the upcoming State of Decay 3, Undead Labs, recently granted a fan a really kind of like sweet wish. So this fan who posted on Reddit and took a very awful potato cam quality screenshot of his screen lost his dad 3 or so years ago, and is obsessed with State of Decay. And he pinged the developers saying, "Hey, please put my dad in the game." And he's just playing away, and they did. And 3 years later, this guy found his dad in the game, not just his name, but his traits of like skills, and everything about him. And I think the fact that the developers went out of their way to go in and the back end update the game and put that in there just for a fan, and didn't even like message him back and say, "Yeah, we've taken care of that." And I think particular shout out has to go to, because Undead Labs themselves tweeted that Jeffrey Card, one of the game designers at Undead Labs, is a legend. So it looks like that sole developer is responsible for adding that in. And I think that's just a really nice story to just read. You know, like it's gaming. We have to remember this, and this is why we've got an amazing community. Gaming is actually most of the time really fun, really creative expressions.
No, actual
it's
gaming
a great way of bringing people together.
Fun. Like actually gaming is fun. It's all the shit around it that can be such a drag.
And it often is, right? And I think, you know, if I think of our own community, I think it is a place for people to come and have fun and find like-minded individuals. And when I see stuff like this, it makes me all warm and fuzzy inside.
Get your tingles.
And I love it. So I had to write about it. So big kudos to Jeffrey Card, the designer at Undead Labs, and Undead Labs themselves for doing something cool just off the cuff because they can, because that's awesome. And that's about it for the news. I don't think there's anything broken in the last hour while we've been chatting.
No one's pinged me.
That's good then.
I get pinged a lot during streams normally. Nothing today.
That's always good. As once again, a big thank you to the community for showing up. If you would be so kind as to like the stream before you click out as we depart, it is appreciated. The likes do help overall with the algorithm, but really, we're just glad you're here with us on this journey. We'll be back on Thursday for another episode of Headlines as we recount the news from the rest of the week. And I think, keep me honest here, Jesse, just before we go, you have managed to get a review up for Shadow of the Erdtree.
I have. It's late, so it's not going to do good numbers, but I do have a review up for Elden Ring. Shadow of the Erdtree has a fun little, even if you only watch the beginning, it has a fun little, whatever you call them, friggin' montage that are half the reason I wanted to do a video. Anyways, game's great. It is more Elden Ring. Like, if you don't really know Elden Ring, you're not going to be in a position to play this DLC anytime soon. It is deep end game level stuff. But if you have beaten the base game and you got a character that's in an end game build, you can hop right into this. As long as you haven't started a new game plus, it's awesome. You can go read the review. You do have to engage with the game's mechanic, which is finding skidoo tree fragments, as weird a name as that is.
Skibbity bibbity.
Every time you upgrade your skidoo tree buff, you gained 5% more damage done and damage reduction. So it is incredibly important to level that up as soon as you can. And most people have not. And then they get very mad that they're dying. And it's like, that's the mechanic for the DLC. From Software DLCs are always tougher than the base game. That's been every one of them. Whenever they've done DLC, it is harder than the base game because it is meant to be this thing you do later because you've already beaten it because it's not coming out at launch. Yeah. So, but yeah, it is phenomenal. I gave it a 9.5 spoiler, but it's great. I really enjoyed it. It's a ton of content. I think if you want to get everything out of it, get all the quests done, because getting all the quests done actually makes the final boss way easier. Get all your quests done. You can easily get 30 to 40 hours out of it just as an expansion.
Nice. That's a pretty decent expansion. That's a whole game in some other circles.
It's like so 2 or 3 games.
Elden Ring 1.5, like that's really good.
If you want to go straight by value, it's $10 less. Well, it requires a purchase ahead of time, but it's 8 times the content of Hellblade 2.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty nuts. In the interest of fairness, because I did spot a shout out in the chat. Hey, what about the Stellar Blade news? We could save it Thursday, but I'm here. I've looked it up, so I'm going to talk about it now.
So the Stellar Blade thing is also like, I know people are like, only $1 million. Like, but it wasn't a big budget game. Like, it got saved by Sony because it didn't have any money left. Like, it wasn't a money hat. It was essentially saving this project by publishing it. So I would say hitting 1 million sales is probably really good. Now, Sony might have wanted way more because they are used to things not really with Final Fantasy Remake, I guess, but they are used to things that they have exclusive. I guess not even really with like freaking Returnal or Ratchet and Clank. 1 million seems fine for that team size and everything. Seems good.
There is some interesting stats there as well. The developers have reported they are considering a PC version, and interestingly, it's got the highest Metacritic user rating of all PS5 games ever at 9.2 over 5,000 reviews.
If there's one thing,
thirsty boys. Paul Tassi wrote about this. Stellar Blade, he says on Twitter, is my favorite new game of this year so far. I gave it a solid 8 out of 10. Is it the best game on PS5 this entire generation? That's a stretch. He's written an article about it, so feel free to go click that. I think he's probably
saying
game
something. Only an 8.
Yeah, well,
it's been a good year.
It's been a great year so far.
Yeah, maybe favorite new PS5 game or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe there's some nuance there.
Yeah, I admit I don't get to see Paul's tweets by choice. But yeah, so I don't know. 1 million seems fine. It's like, it's one of those things where I think a lot of people get really used to the big numbers being like 15, 20, 30 million because the Switch has just been so crazy with first party software. When 1 million for most of these games is crazy. Like, it was only a couple years ago Persona, as a 30+ year old series, hit 10 million copies. Like, it's not, if your budget's not huge, hitting 1 million is incredible.
So I'm reading the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Stellar Blade has bums and boobs in it. That's why it's the highest rated game ever. All right, there's a bunch of thirsty teenage boys out there clicking also, 10 out of 10.
There are fan bases out there that brigade and review, like who was it? Rotten Tomatoes went to user scores, and everyone's like, that's really stupid because like they had a problem where people were buying scores from tomato approved sites. And it's like, yeah, it sucks. You should try and fix that. But also, user scores are even worse. They're rarely honest. Most people go with an agenda if they're going to bother putting in a user review.
Hey, just the State of Decay Twitter account just followed me on Twitter. It's always nice. Well. Hi, guys. Probably because I wrote that thing. Mm-hmm. There you go. That is it. Now, that's it for the news. We've done all of the news. Mm-hmm. So we will be back on Thursday for another episode of Headlines. Saturday, no Nick on the Mainline podcast. So expect to see someone equally handsome and wonderful in his place as we talk through generally gaming and everything, and probably have a bit of a laugh. And we will be back on Thursday. We'll see you then.
Ciao for now.
Bye, folks. you.